Photoshop Basics we do with a picture from the pinhole camera. You could do it with any other picture as well, but it's just the basics of taking a photo, inverting it, adding some color, and making some selections. So quick tour. First, what you want to do is you want to, on the desktop, click on the Tools icon, which will give you the Tools dialog box, and then if you click on Scan, you will get a little dialog box like this. You click Scan again, it will pop open a scan window like this, and again you click on Scan here, it will show the last thing scanned, but if you have put your picture on the scanner, you click Scan, and that will scan your photo. Where it puts it is into the H drive with today's date on the file. And you want to make sure that the save type as is a JPEG, not a PDF or a TIFF, so you want to have it as a JPEG, and that works best. So once you've got that scanned, it will be in your folder. You can go in that folder and drag it into Photoshop, which I've already done. So here we are in Photoshop. Now, if we have this basic Photoshop image, and we look at that, and it looks a little sideways, right? So first we got to rotate it the correct way. So we're going to Image, Image Rotation, and we need to move this 90 degrees clockwise. So now we have the image the right way around. And the first thing you'll notice is that it's a negative. So what we have to do is turn it into positive. Now this little black and white circle are what's called the adjustment layers. If I click on that, I can click on Invert, and that will give me a positive image. So that's our first basic thing we want to do. Now there's lots of other adjustment layers, so we can go in here and we can do a brightness contrast, for example, and with our sliders I can make that image a little bit brighter, bring up or desaturate the contrast. You can sort of play around with and figure out what you like. There's lots of different adjustment layers you can play with. I'll do one more. Oops, not the mask. I'm going to play with levels, and I'm going to play around with our levels in here, saturate the black, make the whites a little brighter. There we go. I like that. Okay. And you can go back to any of these adjustment layers by clicking on their icon, and you get your sliders back for that layer. There's nothing in Invert, but the other ones have adjustments that you can make. Now, sometimes you don't want to make the adjustment to the entire image. That's where the selection tools come in. Now, there's a number of different ways of selecting parts of an image. So the first basic one is the rectangle or the ellipse one. And what you do is you drag and get your space. Now, if you look at the top, there are 4 little icons. The first one will make a new selection each time you drag. The second one will add to your selection. The third one will take away from your selection. And the last one will create a new selection from the parts that are overlapped, like this. Okay? So that works that way no matter which tool you select, as long as it has these buttons. So rectangles, the next one down, the lasso tools are quite handy because you can freehand draw any selection you want. If you want some organic shape, so that way, and they still have the same buttons. Next to the lasso tool, there's a polygon lasso tool, which is very handy if you want to select something architectural, like in this picture. I could click here, go down to the end, select down, click here, and make a selection and hit enter, and it makes that selection. And you notice it's added to it because I'm still on the add feature here. I can go select, deselect, and have nothing selected. So that's the polygon lasso tool. The magnetic lasso tool, it does, if you have a line that you can go along with, it will magnetically go to the line. So even if I go a little bit off or below the line, it will snap to that line. That's assuming there's a line. Right now it's guessing, and then now I'm going back along a line. It's happy again. It can go along this line here. Here it's guessing again, so I'm going along and I'm going down. And again, I'm getting to the end, and I can hit enter to close my selection area. So they did a pretty good job of selecting that part of the image. A couple more selection tools. One is the magic wand tool. That selects everything that's the same color. So if I click, and again, I'm going to make a new selection. If I click on this bright area, it selects everything that's white and that's connected, right? I can click on something black, it would collect that, and so on. And you can add to that selection. Okay, so very handy. Now there's one extra tool, the quick selection tool, and that's often the one to start with if it works well. So I'm going to make a new selection, and I'm going to draw over this right area. So just like the magic wand tool, it picks up the same color, and like the magnetic tool, it snaps to the nearest edge. So it's a little bit cleaner selection. And again, I can go add. It's more like a paintbrush. I can add to the brush, or I can take away from the brush. So I don't want this area here, and so on. Now, The power of the selection is once you have a selection, for these adjustment layers, if you have a selection and you go to an adjustment layer down here, and I'm going to go back to my image, and I'm going to go to make sure I'm on my photo layer. I'm going to make a new adjustment layer, and I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to choose hue saturation, for example. So now it gives me slider, and I can change the slider here, and you can see it now. It's picked up color, and it's added color to that selection that I've made. So very quickly, and you see you have a mask. So it's a black and white mask. The white part you see, the black part you don't see. The very cool last thing I want to show you about a mask is that you can actually modify the mask. So you can select more areas and add to this, or you can even take a paintbrush and you can make that paintbrush any size you want. You can choose a hard edge or a soft edge, and then you can make sure if your little white box is around the mask and then not around the image, you can actually draw on the mask. So right now my mask is black, so I would take away if I draw. You can see I'm taking away. Or if I switch my color to white, I could add to the mask, so I could add that color in. And if I'm saying, well, you know, down here it's too strong and I want to take some away, I could even go for a shade of gray and paint a little bit over it and lighten the amount of mask. So I'm always adding black and white tones to take away or add to a mask selection. And that's the basic principle of masking, and we'll be doing lots of Photoshop assignments, and it will always come down to masking, selecting, and working with layers. And in your finished assignment for the Photoshop Basics, I should see several adjustment layers that have white masks or no masks, and I should see a few layers that use these kind of selection tools. So again, and you can just sort of randomly pick different parts of your image. So let's say I'm going to color that one, and I'm going to add an adjustment layer, and I'm going to do let's see, a hue saturation we've already done, so let's do a color balance. And I'm going to play with that one and use a different slider, so I'm going to add some color in there, and so on.